is the 31st day of August and the last day in this month. A warm welcome to TV Africa News and thank you for always joining us. This is Africa Today. My name is Najma Luima, but first are the headlines. Court dismisses with costs petition against Kagoma County MP. Massacre Army veterans ask for guns to counter machete welding gangs. Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema replaces army and police chiefs. And in sports, Uganda Cranes arrive in Kenya with high expectations. A warm welcome once again. Now the news in detail. The High Court in Jinja has dismissed with costs an election petition filed by a former Kagoma County MP seat contestant in Jinja district, citing lack of sufficient evidence. We have more.
Mr. Frederick Munyirwa of the ruling National Resistance Movement filed a petition against the incumbent Member of Parliament, Mr. Moses Waliomu, an independent, citing bribery and lack of requisite academic qualifications, and wanted the latter's victory nullified. Mr. Munyirwa also accused the Electoral Commission of accepting to nominate Mr. Waliomu without academic qualifications, adding that the non-compliance of the electoral laws affected the outcome of the results in a substantial manner. However, the Electoral Commission confirmed to the court that Mr. Waliomu's name was on the voters' register and that he was a registered voter. In his ruling, presiding judge Justice Joseph Mulangira dismissed the case with costs on grounds that the evidence presented to court was unsatisfactory and advised whoever was not satisfied with his judgment to appeal within 14 days. Mr. Ben Semandazua, Mr. Waliomu's lawyer, said his client changed the names but added his father's name Waliomu using the rightful procedures, and they hope to change the petitioner 200 million shillings as costs incurred in this case. Mr. Munyirwa, however, said he is dissatisfied with the judgment and will appeal. The Electoral Commission declared Mr. Waliomu winner of the January 14th elections after garnering 7,948 votes against Mr. Munyirwa's 5,048 votes.
A section of army veterans in the Greater Masaka region have asked the government for guns to reinforce the security teams in countering the machete welding gangs terrorizing residents in the areas.
The army veterans that are already part of the vigilant groups formed to reinforce security in the wake of the fragile security situation where 28 lives have been gruesomely taken by yet to be identified assailants. The veterans hinged premised their request on the thinly spread security personnel in the region, yet the threat at hand demands more manpower to boost the operations. Mr. Wilson Mpungu, a former serviceman and Kako LC1 chairperson in Nyendo Mukungwe Division, Masaka City, said in a meeting attended by area members of parliament and local leaders on Monday that the assassins simply have blunt objects which they use to hack the helpless older persons, adding that if given guns, he was sure they can use their techniques and save the region from these heartless assailants. Another veteran retired Captain Gerald Kayemba, who was the LC1 chairperson of Lutete Village, Chimanya Kabonera in Masaka City, described police deployment as defective and advised them to be proactive by carrying out undercover deployments in hotspots and avoid noisy patrols that scare away the assailants, hence failing to arrest any suspect. Internal Affairs General David Muhozi visited the region later on Monday and held a meeting with the region stakeholders at Rengo District Headquarters. In his address to Masaka leaders, General Muhozi said all culprits behind the insecurity in the Greater Masaka region will face the charges of terrorism once caught.
A section of legislators from Kasese led by the municipality MP Ferigo Kambale has asked the government to speed up the process of constructing the Uganda-DR Congo routes as it will enhance cross-border trade and commerce between the two countries. Kachanchu has more.
The Kasese legislators said the partnership will help the two countries deal with the bad elements that usually hide in the Democratic Republic of Congo and destabilize the mountain areas of Uganda. In June this year, President Museveni and his counterpart in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, broke the ground for the construction of the first of the 3 roads that will connect their 2 countries. The members of parliament said the construction company contracted to construct roads in the Democratic Republic of Congo must speed up the process, urging that the early completion of the project will enhance cross-border trade and commerce between the 2 countries. They urged the contractors to consider hiring local labor during the construction of the roads. On the issue of insecurity, they said the roads will help the 2 governments coordinate on how to deal with criminals that hide in the Democratic Republic of Congo to cause instability in Uganda. The 3 roads, with a length of 223 kilometers, were approved by the cabinet in October last year and are expected to cost around $330 million. The first road of 80 kilometers will run between the border town of Mpondwe in Uganda to Beni in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The second road will be entirely in the Democratic Republic of Congo and will cover 89 kilometers between Bunagana on the Uganda border and the port of Goma in the northern shore of Lake Kivu. The third road of 54 kilometers will link Beni to the important commercial center of Butembo.
Let's take a very quick short break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, The Right to Know. Zambia's new president, Hakainde Hichilema, has replaced the country's top military commanders and the head of the police and signaled a focus on the security forces being more accountable to the citizens.
The president of Zambia, Hakainde Hichilema, announced new commanders of the Zambian Army, the Air Force and the National Service and their deputies, as well as a new Inspector General of Police. All regional police commissioners have also been relieved of their duties, but their replacements have not been named. Mr. Hichilema said the new office bearers must have the interest of the people at heart and serve the country diligently while ensuring human rights, freedoms and liberties are respected. He said the police must carry out proper checks before detaining suspects and that no one should be arrested before investigations are concluded. Mr. Hichilema, who was voted in as president earlier this month in a landslide victory, has been the victim of police brutality in the past. He has been arrested and detained multiple times in the past and had promised to deal with the heavy-handedness of the security forces.
A draft law that seeks to amend a 1987 Congolese law regarding the payment of dowry and matters of polygamy has whipped up a storm in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The proposed law was tabled in Parliament by an MP called Daniel Mbau in June. Let's take a look.
Honorable Daniel Mbau wants articles in the Democratic Republic of Congo's Family Code amended to set a limit on the amount of money a man seeking to marry a woman should pay as dowry. He proposed $200 for people living in rural areas and $500 for those in urban areas. Currently, some parents in the capital Kinshasa demand between $3,000 to $5,000 as bride price for their daughters. The figure can go higher depending on the girl's level of education. The Member of Parliament says the Congolese tradition of paying dowry has been commercialized, that it has begun creating problems in the society. But many Congolese say there is no reason to change the tradition. Remy Mulingati revealed that the payment of dowry is supposed to be symbolic, not a commercial affair as it is in the present situation, where parents reach an extent of asking for a plane ticket, but rather be as it was in the past, where a parent was to pay for a sack of salt and that was all. Some Congolese were of varied opinions and felt that matters pertaining to marriage and dowry were off limit to the legislation. The Member of Parliament has also proposed the criminalization of polygamy, a practice that has been carried out by some Congolese tribes for centuries.
Nabil Karoui, leader of the Liberal Party, which came second in the 2019 presidential election in Tunisia, was arrested on Sunday in Algeria, along with his brother MP, according to Tunisian media.
According to Radio Mosaic FM on Sunday, Algerian border police arrested Mr. Karoui, leader of the Kalb Tunis party, and Gaz Karoui in the region of Tebessa in northeastern Algeria. A leader of the Kalb Tunis party, Osama Khelifi, told media on Monday that the party was waiting for official information from the Tunisian and Algerian authorities, who have not confirmed the arrest of the two brothers so far. The spokesman for the Tunisian court of Kasserine, Riyad Al-Nouri, told journalists that the authorities are investigating two people suspected of helping the Karoui brothers to flee to Algeria. The founder of the private Tunisian channel Nessima TV, which is partly owned by Silvio Berlusconi, former head of the Italian government, Mr. Karoui has been prosecuted since 2017 in a case of money laundering and tax fraud.
The chairman of the Chadian Transitional Military Council, Mohamed Idris Deby, on Monday visited Sudan in a bid to solicit regional support in rebuilding the North Central African state. We have more.
The Sudan Sovereignty Council President Abdel Fattah al-Burhan met with Chad HGK President Deby and his accompanying delegation at the Republic Palace in the capital Khartoum. In a statement, Deby said his visit was also meant to strengthen the cooperation and relations between Sudan and Chad. Faced with related security issues, the two countries embraced the integration, concerted efforts and joint cooperation with the African Union in the field of border security, the fight against terrorism and the fight against cross-border security violations. Deby further stated that they will intensify efforts to reinforce the security and stability of Sudan and Chad.
Let's once again take a very quick short break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. In our business, in news today, the United Nations Environment Programme said on Monday that the use of leaded petrol has been eradicated from the globe, a milestone that will prevent more than 1.2 million premature deaths and save world economies over $2.4 trillion annually.
The United Nations Environment Programme said that nearly a century after doctors first issued warnings about the toxic effects of leaded petrol, Algeria, the last country to use the fuel, exhausted its supplies last month, calling the news a landmark win in the fight for cleaner air. Inga Anderson, Executive Director of UNEP, which is headquartered in Nairobi, said that the successful enforcement of the ban on leaded petrol is a huge milestone for global health and our environment. Even as recently as 2 decades ago, more than 100 countries around the world were still using leaded petrol, despite studies linking it to premature deaths, poor health and soil and air pollution. Concerns were raised as early as 1924, when dozens of workers were hospitalized and 5 declared dead after suffering convulsions at a refinery run by US giant Standard Oil, nicknamed the Lune Gas Building by staff. Nevertheless, until the 1970s, almost all the gasoline sold across the globe contained lead. When UNEP launched its campaign in 2002, many major economic powers had already stopped using the fuel, including the United States, China, and India. But the situation in lower-income nations remained dire.
Bagari.
In our health news today, France will send 10 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines in Africa over the next 3 months, according to the French presidency's statement on Monday. At a conference in Berlin last week, African leaders renewed calls for vaccine equity.
The vaccines will be allocated and distributed through the African Union's Vaccine Acquisition Trust, AVAT, and COVAX. AVAT is a means of enabling group purchases of vaccines by African Union members to help them meet at least 50% of their needs. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said it was unfair that richer countries had vaccinated nearly the entire adult populations, while poorer countries struggled to buy vaccines. Africa has administered the least vaccines of any continent. Only 2% of Africa's population of 1.2 billion is fully vaccinated. African countries have mostly relied on multilateral and bilateral donations, which inequality the activists have termed vaccine apartheid. The African Union is looking to set up vaccine production sites in 5 countries. So far, Egypt and South Africa have begun local production of Sinovac and Johnson & Johnson vaccines respectively. The statement by Macron's office said that enough jabs had now been purchased through AVAT to enable vaccination of 4 million people in Africa, a third of the continent's population, by September 2022 at a cost of $3 billion.
In sports, the Uganda Cranes team arrived at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Nairobi City, Kenya on Tuesday morning ahead of their game against Kenya and was received by the national team's officer who was the advance party in Nairobi for the team, Paul Mukatabara. Kachanchu has more.
The Uganda Cranes team delegation traveled aboard Ethiopian Airlines from Bahirda City via the capital Addis Ababa, where they got the connecting flight. This is ahead of the vital FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022 Group E qualifier between the two traditional CECAFA giants, Uganda and Kenya. At the airport, they were received by the national team's officer, who was the advance party in Nairobi for the team, Paul Mutakabara. The team was then driven to the lavish Tamarind Tree Hotel along Langata Road. 3 more foreign-based players, Isaac Mleme of Victoria Zizkov in Czech Republic and Derek Nsibambi of Smoha in Egypt joined the team in Nairobi. Uganda Cranes head coach Milutin Michos Rejovic believes the slightest details will separate the two sides. Micho also added that they are doing what it takes to take full advantage of the 3 details.
Now, before we end our news bulletin today, let's take a recap of our top stories. Court dismisses with costs petition against Kagoma County MP. Masaka Ame veterans ask for guns to counter machete wielding gangs. Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema replaces army and police chiefs. And in sports, Uganda Cranes arrive in Kenya with high expectations. That was the news. Thank you for always keeping it TV Africa. Please do stay tuned. More programming coming your way. We also wish you the best of September.